All right, guys, you are recording, and I'm gonna step out and have yourself a good podcast. And I'll send you the. I'll send. Yeah, I'll get this audio to both of you, but then George, I'll send you the video. All right, go ahead.
Oh, okay. All right. All right. I'll make my little camera thing. So anyway, George Strong here. I am the general manager here at KBFT Radio, Boys Fort Tribal Community Radio at Lake, Minnesota. And with joining me today is Keith Secola. And the whole point of this little test run here is that we want to introduce you to a project that we're working on with Keith. And this has been in the works for probably at least 2 years. And we're excited to kind of bring a visual component to Native Americana. And that's the title of this thing. We're going to call these podcasts or these episodes Native Americana Cafe. And so featuring Keith Secola and all these special guests and friends and network that Keith has in his world. And so we're excited to kind of get this production going. And we're going to do this as a little introduction uh, for Keith and myself and KBFT Radio, and in bringing episodes like this to you in the future. And we're looking to get this into an hour-long format. We'll start out with these small podcasts, and then we'll work our way to a big hour-long production in which we'll be airing these episodes on the radio and hopefully sharing them with other radio stations, native radio stations, or any other radio stations that are interested in content like this. So, without further ado, here's our good buddy Keith Scola.
So I've been an ethnomusicologist, an amateur ethnomusicologist for a number of years, George, and traveling throughout my travels through traditional recordings from at ceremonies like the Sundance to secular recordings like 49s and things. And so I've traveled all over around Indian country and I've collected a lot of stories. And I've actually started physically collecting stories for over 20 years ago out in the field. Some early recordings with Floyd Westerman, the first time he was in the studio, a digital studio since the analog days. And so it kind of spurred this idea of taking America off the grid, taking them to where the stories are, where the songs are, where the people are, um, even farther off the grid than places that would have traditional music radio formats and things like that. Finding the story, the stories behind, and I've collected them for a number of years, old interviews, old songs. In the last 10 to 5 years, even more so. But now the last 2, 3 years with George and us up at KBFT, we've been going in the field and collecting our elders and talking and interviewing them. And there's a lot of musicians, a lot of folk musicians on a national level, on a state level, on a local level that should be heard. And so this is a format. I call it the Native Americano Audio Cafe, Coffee with Keith, sharing songs. This song kind of started it all. We played a little bit of it, but just visiting with artists, letting them talk about the music, how they write songs, how they're coping in this time of quarantine, skills, life skills that we can pass on. Um, these are things that we want to make people feel better. Like the great Woody Guthrie would say, I want to write songs that make people happy. I want to uplift songs. And same thing, we want to uplift the people and we want them to tell us story, their story on tell it to us on how music is pulling them through these hard times. And the stories and the musicians can vary. We can have a hoop dancer in here. We can have a powwow singer in here. We can have an electric guitar player in here. we can have a storyteller. We're letting the artist define the genre. In all genres, they have things like definitions for their genre. So we're calling it Native Americana. In Canada, we call it Native Canadiana. In South America, uh, natives, South Americana, kind of. But the songs are out there. They're in the heart of the people. They're in the minds. They're in the souls. And we want to give them a format and create a little bit of awareness and a little bit of stimulus in these times of isolation that we're not really isolated. Our elders tell us to always live in the present. And now more so than ever, we're learning this lesson. And how can we live in the present? How do we live within the environment in these crazy times? This is what the music does. It helps us live within the present a little bit more, live with a little bit of less isolation, so we're a little bit connected. And it's ironic that we're connecting on this technology, and we encourage people to get out there and write songs, and this will give the artist a format to write a song during this weirdness, get inspired again, and give that inspiration to someone else.
And that's one of the things that I think is kind of developed out of all this. You know, the one thing about the connection and about the stories and cultural aspects of the knowledge that Native people carry, and also kind of the younger uh, the, the younger members of our community, and how we want to kind of showcase or at least be an example of how we should be communicating, especially in this times, even though we're this COVID situation. I really like that it's kind of forcing us as a radio station to reach out into other forms of media and to kind of bring new projects like this Native Americana cafe, audio cafe with Keith Secola, that type of thing. Because I know in your travels, you go around and you meet people, not just musicians, but you meet the community members, you meet the elders, and I know how much um, knowledge and expertise that you bring to that, aside from music. And so that's really what we'd like to feature here and tell the stories of your travels and the people that you meet along your travels. And so that's really what this is about. And I want to invite um, all the musicians out there, or storytellers, or whoever it is, or young people. If you're inspired by some of this, we want to share it, and so we want to make you part of this program. And just reach out to us, and we'll get you in contact. And I want to tell you that, or at least share to you that the goal of this project is to make this worldwide. So if this brings us to Russia, if it brings us to Europe, or if it brings us to places in Germany or places in Ireland or even South America, that would be really cool if we could get people involved. And through this technology, like you said, we're able to reach out in this capacity now. And I really like this format that we're getting familiar with. And so we want to invite our listeners and our viewers to tune into this. And anything else you want to share about this project, Keith?
Um, and also in the larger, we're creating hour-long episodes where they'll be archived and couched and also distributed that listeners can go to for longer episodes for their research or enjoyment things. And these are like mini cafes, little 10-minute, 20-minute segment updates to the artist, to the world. And let them share their stories. So I'm really excited about this format. It's like Quentin Marcellus said, either you're talking about music or you're doing it. And so this is our opportunity to do it and
Yes.
give the opportunity to native artists, non-native artists who are part of this great circle of what we call Native Americana. And so
Right on.
welcome the artists to submit their songs to us. You can submit it to our radio station, to myself at Secola um, at Cox.net. We'll figure out the formats where the links where you can set up. And even if we don't interview, we could even run your interview or your video on this format, but we'll get to you. You
Right
know,
on. Yeah, and I want to encourage people to visit kbft.org also, and then find out more information about this program and some of the other stuff that's coming up. And then I really like this interview format, so I think what we're going to do is we're going to continue this hopefully on a weekly basis. Just I'll tap in and let you know of things that are going on, some of the upcoming interviews or upcoming projects. Right now, it's kind of a challenging times where we've had a lot of our live events, our KBFT live events, having to be postponed. But we want to keep everybody informed of what's going on. Tune into KBFT, uh, I guess, just to get the latest up to date. And we still have our live DJs going through the afternoon. The Benner Show has been a big success, and so we want to keep promoting our local activities and tune into us for things that are happening locally. And speaking of that, your first guests on this podcast, right?
yeah.
We're looking at bringing in a local, uh, I guess.
Recording studio artist.
Yeah. And he's just prolific. He's been doing his own uh, streaming episodes almost on a daily basis, and it's almost like he can't help himself. He's just
Yeah, you got a good YouTube station.
yeah.
We got a lot of great guests already lined up. Hip hop artists,
Hmm.
powwow dancers, hoop dancers, storytellers, guitar players, and singers and songwriters.
Right. Yeah. Well, cool. So tune in, stay tuned, and check out the Native Americana Audio Cafe in Secola and KBF.
I'm not afraid of anything in this world. There's nothing you can throw at me that I haven't already heard. I'm just trying to write this decent melody, song that I can sing in my own company. You got to get yourself together. You got stuck in a moment and you can't get out. Don't say that later will be better. Now you're stuck in a moment and you can't get out. Join us with Coffee with Keith, Native Americano, Audio Cafe, ABFT, Miigwech. All right, George, I think we recorded our first podcast.
Right on. Yeah. Okay.
You'd be a good host too. You'd be a good guest in here. Let's check in with George, like little segments. Like,
Yeah. That's what we're gonna.
let's check in with George, like little things that we can do. Um, I don't know, like a coffee with Keith section or something like that,
Yeah, there
like
you go. Yeah. Yeah.
little segment. George's update, coffee
Yeah.
with
We could
Keith.
update people on what's happening. With the projects that we're trying to do, and because right now it's almost like a daily thing, maybe even hourly that we get the okay or we get a little more detail on what we can do, what we can't do, what we should be planning, what
And it'd be nice to do a live broadcast from the
we
radio
shouldn't be
station.
planning, how much money is there, how much money is not there, all that.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. Well, that's cool. Yeah.
All
So
right.
this is kind of how this is going to work, Keith. And you know, this is really cool. I mean, we could line up anybody. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
And make them part of it. And so I really like the idea of reaching out to a lot of people that are out there. Like Sonny Johnson from Red Lake. I wish he'd come on and sing a tune, or
You would. We
you
could.
know,
I put Corey. I just put a tentative list down there if we want to massage it more for
yeah,
sure.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. So I just think there's a lot of worthy music that's out there, and I think it's just something that's just gonna, you know, keep
Just
everybody.
get the numbers, George, so we could start um, getting, we know how much we can talk, we're talking about and things, get the numbers and how many artists. And I bet we could do three a week or something like that.
Yeah, yeah. Okay. Well, I'll get to work on that, and I'm glad Solomon was able to step
I
in.
like him. I like this idea too. It's great. The options are pretty wide open.
And there's a little bit more to it. I know he hasn't showed us, but where he was setting up the screen, this screen here, we can put the titling, instead of just a little George Strong at KBFT, we can do like a little news thing where it comes out, and has my
Yeah,
name and put you up in the corner and then have the logo down below and
I
whatever else.
guess. How are we going to roll it out, George? How are we going to roll it out to our Facebook page, or do we
Well, I
have any?
think we'll make an announcement on our everybody's media,
Yeah,
everybody involved, so you could roll it out on your streams or your social
too bad we
medias.
couldn't have a little icon poster made up or something like that. I'm not very good at this end. If we had someone to make up a little flyer for the Native Americano Auto Cafe.
Yeah, yeah, even like a little like a logo kind
Yeah,
of.
like maybe a coffee cup with a feather design on there. I
Hmm.
don't know. I
There you
don't
go.
know, the
Yeah.
microphone. But do you know anybody who could do it? You know anybody?
How about Sean Chosa? I don't know how busy he is right now. You know
We
Sean?
should find out somebody. Yeah.
That's
I
one
don't
of
know Sean. Was he with Jamie? Did he sing with Jamie?
no, he's a graphic artist.
Oh,
Yeah, he's a graphic artist, but he's more of a um he does it with his hands rather than with the computers, but he probably does both.
yeah.
And also he does just general, art. Uh, we are
We
trying to
need
get him
some
to
kind
come
of
up.
little icon. I'll think about it. Think you too on your end if he's available. That might take him a little too long if he has to draw it out. I
How
don't
about your
know.
how about your son? Your
He
son?
probably could do it. I'll ask him.
Okay, that would be really slick, man. Because we still
Yeah,
have to get him up here.
yeah. That'd be great to have him as one of our guests sometimes too, because then we could do an art video, like stuff
Yeah,
like that.
yeah, and that's kind of what I was going to talk to Chaz about. If this continues any further, maybe what we do is just get people in this format. Maybe they just have a little demonstration, have a camera from up above, like them cooking shows where
Yeah.
they're showing
Well,
exactly
did you
what we're
see
doing.
Miko has a really neat hoop dancing thing now? I seen it last night. He entertains.
Oh,
It's
really?
exercise. Yeah, we could have him as one of our guests too.
Yeah, I kind of saw that. I saw. I think it was Lumi that had a post about that. Check this out or something like that.
Yeah, so it'd be a good one too. And there's a lot like we could plan out our first five or six where we got people who are really savvy, and then we would get more savvy, and then we could go like to Maurice, or even if Maurice had to come in to the station or to where
Yeah.
you are, I'm sure you
Yep.
could set up social distancing for him so
Oh,
he
for
feels.
sure. Yeah, we'll just like set it up over in the next room and just say
Yeah,
everything's ready for you. Just stand in front of the camera, and Solomon will be there to direct you.
yeah,
And yeah,
yeah,
yeah.
yeah.
So we could
Well,
do it that
that's
way.
good. I seen Solomon came back here. Hi,
All
Saul.
right.
I think we got it, Solomon. You could cut it off and edit it. Right after the song. I think we were
All right.
done.
So you're gonna do a song and then?
No, we already did it. Yeah.
Oh, okay,
Yeah.
cool, cool, cool. All right, I'm gonna hit stop recording now, so I don't overfill everything. But yeah, thanks,
Okay. On
guys.
my end, I'm going to work on the structure of